Thank you very much for coming, Mark.
Thank you.
I'll begin by asking some of my questions before passing it to students in the audience. But let's get straight to it. It is no secret that you and Donald don't always agree on things. Are there any things you particularly disagree on?
I mean, I just don't think he's very smart.
Right.
You know, it's funny, when I've known Donald for a long time, for better and worse, and we've always had a love-hate relationship. When I say something negative about him, he hates me, and when I say something nice about him, he loves me, and it doesn't matter. If you say something nice about Donald Trump, you know, he'll love you no matter what. So when he first started to run, I didn't really take it all that seriously, but I came out and I said, it was refreshing to have a candidate that was candid, wasn't scripted, said what was on their mind, and wasn't traditional. And obviously, a lot of people felt that way, and I supported him. And so during the primaries, I supported him against Ted Cruz, who is a Republican senator from Texas, my home state, who I thought was dangerous, an ideologue, but also smart, which is an even worse combination. So I thought, okay, if we have Ted Cruz as a candidate, that's a bad thing. So I told Donald I would support him. And I would talk to him all the time, and he would call me up and he'd say, have you seen the polls and this and that? And from time to time, as he started talking about things, I was like, Donald, I mean, I can't support you on these issues. Some of this stuff is just batshit crazy, but I don't want Ted Cruz to win. And he was like, oh, that's okay, Mark, that's okay. We'll see what happens. And I honestly didn't think he believed he would win. Because I remember, you know, this is a big job, Donald. Well, we'll see what happens. And hey, did you see these polls? And you know, hey, I'm winning here, and I would congratulate him. And from time to time, there would be, you know, topics that would come up. And I remember it was about this time last year when the whole topic of encryption came up with Apple and the FBI. And I tried to explain it to him. And it was just, there was no point. And so, as time went on, it got to the point where it was obvious he wasn't making an effort to learn. And one time I went on TV on CNN and criticized him, and he sent me a note. So the way Donald Trump sends a note is his assistant, one of his assistants, would email me, and I would respond to the email, and then she would print out the email. He would write on the email, scan it. I would get a copy of the scan. Efficiency at its best. And so he sent it back in that format, and he said, after I criticized him, what happened? And I'm like, Donald, I've told you, at some point you've got to learn the issues. And that was last time I talked to him. Because that was not and has not been important to him. And, you know, call me crazy, but if you're running for president of the United States or our president of the United States, I prefer my presidents to understand the issues. So, you know, he doesn't like me anymore.
Right. So you called Trump not very smart, and he wrote a fortnight ago, I know, on Twitter, of course, I know Mark Cuban well. He backed me big time, but I wasn't interested in taking all of his calls. He's not smart enough to run for president. Who's smarter, you or Trump?
It's like asking me if I'm smarter than a ham sandwich. But I got to tell you the story, right? So I'm laying in bed Sunday morning, and like everybody else, you wake up, you're groggy. What's the first thing you do? You go to the bathroom. But then after that, you come back and you check your phone, right? And so I'm checking my phone, and I go through my emails, and I get to Twitter. You start going through your mentions. And there's the President of the United States tweeting about me. And the first thing that goes through my mind is, oh, the world must be safe, world peace must be in place, life must be perfect, because what else does the President of the United States have to do but tweet to Mark Cuban? That's the first thing. The second thing you think of is, oh shit, what am I going to respond with? And so that was the most interesting part, because having done this with him, I mean, if you go back, I've had Twitter wars with him going back for as long as Twitter has been around. And they're just totally ridiculous. I mean, things like him asking about Obama's birth certificate, and then me asking him whether or not he remembered me, him, and Barry playing soccer in Kenya together, but just dumb shit. But so I'm trying to think how to respond, and you know, it's like if any of you have been criticized on Twitter, social media, or anything, your first thing is, okay, how am I going to get back? What am I going to say? And I went through all these things in my mind, and then it just came down to it. I'm like, LOL, you know, that was it. And talking to people around him, that just burned him bad, right? He was just like, he couldn't get it. So yeah, so when the supposed leader of the free world calls you stupid and says he knows you really well, says he would, you know, that I called him and wouldn't take his calls, which is a lie because I don't have his number, but he would always call me or email me. It's just crazy. I mean, when you think about it, the President of the United States is making shit up about me.
Makes you a big deal, right?
No, it says nothing about me.
Okay, and another mention that you may have seen this morning was from Business Insider. They say that you've got a competitive chance against Trump in 2020. Are you up for that fight?
Well, it's only 2017, you know, and it's only February, so I got plenty of time. It just depends what happens. You know, it's not something that I want to do. It's not like my dream or an ambition to run for president or be president. Mostly not because I don't think I could do the job, not because I don't think I'm smart enough, but just because of the impact on family. You know, I've got 3 young kids, 7, 10, and 13, and that's a big deal to me. And, you know, it's just a family decision. So I have plenty of time to decide. But to me, it really depends on what happens in the next 3 years. It's really hard to look at the first 31 days and think everything's just going to be rosy for the next 3 years. But, you know, who knows? I've been wrong before. You know, general consensus, conventional wisdom has been wrong before. And so we'll see what happens. Look, he's still the president. He's still the leader of the free world. We want things to work. We don't necessarily need for him to be right. We kind of hope he's wrong 9 out of 10 times with the things he's saying, but we still want things to work out. And so there's still that chance. It's like any business decision. It's like any decision in school. It's like any evaluation. There's no reason to rush into something to make a decision now. You want to let it play out and see what happens.
A lot of political analysts criticize Trump for not having any political experience. You say that you can do that job. What makes you think that?
Well, I mean, look, the problems that I've had, at least with Donald Trump, isn't his lack of political experience. It's his lack of leadership, his lack of communication skills, his lack of understanding, or his lack of attempt to learn. He doesn't read. I mean, there's just so many. None of these are political issues. And so of all the skill sets you can hire in this world, politicians are the easiest to hire, and they're relatively cheap. And so I don't see that as an issue. But it's obviously not an easy job, and it's a job. It's funny, when Obama first took over, I had, like any citizen, I had things that I liked about him and criticisms of him. But I got a chance to meet him and actually got the chance to be friends with him. And the one thing I respected of him, even when I disagreed with him, is that he understood what he was talking about. He could make a case for whatever position he was taking, even if I didn't agree with it. And we might butt heads, but I respected his position. You can't look at anything that Donald Trump has done in the first 31 days and said, I may disagree, but it's really well thought out and really reasoned. You're laughing. That's how sad it is. You know, it should be, well, there was that one thing. There is not that one thing. You know, it's scary. And so we want him to be successful. I actually like some of the cabinet people he's put around him, but, time will tell.
And you endorsed Clinton in the election itself as opposed to primaries. Was that an investment against Trump or for Hillary?
It was. I mean, I got to like Hillary. She was very professorial. She wasn't a great candidate. She's smart. I just had the sense she wouldn't blow up the world, and to me that was very important. And so it was more against Trump. Had it been a different candidate, other than Ted Cruz probably, I probably would not have taken a side one way or the other. I mean, I've been in the public eye 15 or more years and had made the point not to endorse a candidate. I'd always, voiced my opinion and spoke out, but I never really took a side. And I haven't contributed money until a senator from Utah, Orrin Hatch, convinced me to give money to the worst cause ever. And I just thought it was the slimiest experience I've ever had in my life. And so it's not like even now that I contribute a lot, because I value my independence. And I value the fact that I am an independent. So as much as I liked Secretary Clinton and I felt very strongly that she could do the job, it was more being against him than finding myself in alignment with a lot of her policies.
Well, you criticize Trump for not having any decent policies, and you have your own opinions, and one is against universal basic income.
Right.
Despite examples of Namibia and other places where it's worked. Do you dismiss it altogether? Would you dismiss it that it can be applied in the United States?
That it can be applied in the United States, because in Africa there's just a different living standard, and there's different support structures in place, and any support structure is a step forward in a lot of cases. And I'm not here to say I'm an expert in UBI, Universal Basic Income. I'm still learning and going through the process. But I think in the United States, there's just a different set of incentives already in place. I think that there are better ways to support those in need and give them the resources they need to live live their lives. And so, I've always taken the approach that there's a lot of waste in government, but but the government doesn't accomplish enough. And so with a little bit more efficiency, rather than a universal basic income, those who already qualified for need, we can give them more money without all the strings attached. And I'd rather shrink government and take a greater percentage of the money going into government and just write them a check, right, to those people in need, which is not UBI, but it serves the same purpose for those who are qualified. When you do it on a universal basis, if I just quit, should I get paid too, right? Am I going to be happy paying 70% of my income because that's what it's going to take to provide UBI at a reasonable level that people can actually live off of? No. I mean, you saw that here in the UK where, when taxes got to 90%, people, moved to the United States or moved elsewhere, or moved to the Cayman Islands. And so, you don't want it to be a disincentive. And again, I'll qualify by all that by saying it's a relatively new topic for me, but my initial inclination is not to be for UBI.
But you do recognize that society in the United States will face a great problem for unemployment through automation and everything else.
Look, I'm trying to get way ahead of it. Look, the one set of conversations I've had with the Trump administration is about the impact of automation, AI, deep learning, machine learning. The whole nature of work is going to change dramatically, and I've tried to be as far out front as I can explaining that to them. I proposed to the Clintons, and I proposed to Trump when I was talking to him. We have an organization called AmeriCorps in the United States, and I thought it should be expanded. We should pay kids more. Right now they get $15,000 a year. That should be double, right? We should expand it from the number we have now. It gets a $1.2 billion budget. That should be 10 times as much, so that we can start putting people to work, because there's going to be a significant disruption. And it's something you all are going to face as you graduate, where when you started school and you had an expectation, even now as you sit here thinking, okay, here's my expectation of what I'm going to use my degree for. Those, if there's a set job or something, a career, if that's in your mind that you wanted to do, it's all going to be different over the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to see far greater change in the next 10 years technologically than we've seen in the past 30. So yeah, the nature of work's going to change. There's going to be significant disruption. How we deal with those people that are disrupted in their livelihood, you can't just retrain them, because we're not going to know what to retrain them for. And so there is going to be a need for social support. There is going to be a need for financial support, but I don't think it's UBI, because people just quit their jobs and say, pay me. But there will be programs that I think we can make people part of, where they earn a living wage and do a job that contributes to society.
Right. And you also say that you prefer students with liberal art degrees because they're more likely to sort of have a job in the future, as opposed to
that's 10
engineers
years out,
and
right?
scientists.
So you guys are caught, right? So, we were talking a little bit earlier that Back in the day when PCs first came out, there were people here that would do the accounting with the eye shades on, and they would have a pen and they were writing a ledger, and they would add things up on a 10-key ledger. Then spreadsheets came along and you put it on a PC. Then you connected the PCs together. But back then we automated manual processes. Now fast forward, we're about to enter the phase where we automate the process of automation. Now think about what that means. Software. I wrote code for 8 years. Software is just math, right? And when math can pre-calculate or math can configure or learn how to do all the possible combinations of math and write software and optimize a program without human intervention, that's the process of automating automation. And that's what's going to happen. And so what looks like a great job now might not be a great job in 10 years. And when it applies to liberal arts, when you're automating automation and deep learning and machine learning and AI is such a critical part of not just work, but our lives, medicine, whatever, then there's going to be a need for people who can critically evaluate information, lots of information, people who have learned how to learn and learn how to continue to process new information and have a variety of viewpoints. And so I think the value of a liberal arts major, while there'll be that dead period, if you will, over the next 10 years, I think it'll increase exponentially, because when you have so much, look, you walk through the library here and you look at the vast number of books, Donald Trump would faint, but for the rest of you, just that ability to say, I've consumed all this and I can understand it and I know how to process it and I can come to conclusions based off of my education. That's going to be a big benefit going forward.
Well, let's move to something less serious, which is basketball. And in 2011, you wrote an ebook, How to Win at the Sport of Business. Do you see business as a sport, and
yes.
if so, which one?
Yeah, business is the ultimate sport. Do we have any entrepreneurs here, or people who are? A couple, which just shows the different dynamic in the United States, right? Because if I go and speak at a university or organization in the U.S., you say, who here is an entrepreneur and wants to be? 90% of the hands go up. Not good or bad, just different. But to me, I named my book How to Win at the Sport of Business. You can download it from Amazon. It's like £2. No, that's what. Never mind. But to me, in business, when you start a company, you don't know who all the competition is. You set your sights on what you want to accomplish. You work hard. You try to come up with an advantage that your company offers. You try to come up with something that people want to pay for, and then you try to improve it every day. You try to re-earn your customers' business every single day. But you don't know where your next competition is coming from. So whether it's football, whether it's American football, whether it's basketball, the game is 60 minutes long, 90 minutes long, 48 minutes long in the case of basketball. You play the game and it's over. In business, everybody here, anybody can start a business and compete with you. So it's nonstop competition that's 24/7 by 365. And to me, that's what I love. Right? I love the competitive juices that come with starting and running a business, because it's like, I played rugby, believe it or not, for a long time. It's like a continuous scrum, right? Where you're going to go in and you're going to go head to head, and to me that's exciting, because I am so competitive. That's where I take out all my competitive juices.
Well, let's talk about these juices.
Okay.
Dallas Mavericks, as I'm sure you know, defeated Miami Heat.
Yeah, I remember that time.
Very well, with James Bosch and Wade. How did that feeling compare to the sale of Broadcast.com?
Okay, so in one case, I don't know if you guys know what Broadcast.com did, but that's how I made all the money. That's what made me rich as fuck, and it was a great day. So way back when, it's been 20 years now, I went to Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, was a big basketball fan, and was such a big basketball fan that when I went down to Dallas, Texas, we would have people, we would sit in front of a phone that had a speakerphone, and somebody in Bloomington, Indiana, where the school was located, would put a speakerphone next to a radio. And we would sit around and drink beers and listen to the game. And this is when the internet was first starting to happen, and we're like, there's got to be a better way. And I had sold recently, prior to that, a networking company. So that's my first company was connecting PCs together into networks, and we became one of the largest systems integrators for local and wide area networks in the US. And so I took a chunk of that and I said, okay, I'm going to figure out how to take audio and put it over this new thing called the internet. And so we started a company called AudioNet, and we were one of the first, if not the first, to really start streaming audio over the net and doing it worldwide. And we became the largest at the time, and we went from being called AudioNet to being called Broadcast.com, went public on the US stock market, and then got bought for $5.7 billion. And I have to say, as much fun as it was winning an NBA championship, that day was more fun.
Well, let's talk about the NBA more seriously. Do you think the league is suffering from the recent changes in salary caps and budgets?
No, we'll be fine. I mean, it's not like Premier League and everything here where it's unlimited. The salary cap kind of puts constraints on us, so we can't just spend money, on an unlimited basis. So it makes it harder. It makes it more of an intellectual challenge to try to figure out the game theory of running a team. But I think from a fan perspective, from a business perspective, while the Mavericks aren't doing as well as we have historically, the NBA itself is doing great.
But the Warriors have now built a super team. Do you not think that's damaging for everyone else?
No. A super team is only one sprained ankle away from being a shithole team. It's just, and sorry if I curse too much, that's just a bad habit. But it's just, I mean, look, there's been other teams that were built as super teams, and you've seen it here in football too, right? And then somebody gets hurt or somebody ages, and it's just not as good as it used to be. So there's nothing assured. The Warriors thought they were going to win last year and didn't. They were up 3-1 and blew the lead, so you just never know.
Well, let's talk about that man. And you were once fined $100,000 for comments against LeBron James, but they won last summer, and you spoke about that. How do you feel about his return to Ohio and the impact that he made?
Yeah, it's great.
There?
I mean, look, LeBron James is the best player in basketball, and he can play wherever he wants to play. He made a huge mistake not playing for the Dallas Mavericks, but apparently he's overcome that and survived it. But yeah, I mean, it's fine with him. We've had to rebuild our team. We've built our team over the last 17 years around Dirk Nowitzki, who's been a superstar, Hall of Famer, and that worked out well for us. Now, as he's aged, we've had to rebuild, and that's part of the challenge. That's part of, not just the on-court challenge, but the intellectual challenge. How do you rebuild a team? And you see that here in the Premier League. Only fortunately, we don't have relegation, so it's a little bit easier for us.
And if you could have one free trade, would that be LeBron or someone else?
You want to get me fined again because the rules say I'm not allowed to talk about other teams' players.
Well, all right, I'll leave it at that. I'll now invite all students to ask their own questions. If you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand and wait for a microphone to be brought to you. If we can go to the member in the third row, sort of in the middle. Yes.
Hi. You mentioned a particular slimy experience when you gave money to a senator in Utah, and I just wondered if you could give us a little more light and in-depth explanation on that.
So this is when Broadcast.com had just gone public, and I thought, there were all kinds of new legislation that was happening as it related to the internet, copyright laws, and because those who were governing didn't really understand the net at the time. So the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee was a senator named Orrin Hatch. And Mark, I want to talk to you. I want to talk about copyright, changing digital copyright laws. And we did for about 3 minutes. And then he decided he wanted to pitch me on donating to the Utah State Library Committee or something ridiculous, right? And in my, naivete, I was like, okay, this is probably the first step. Give a little money to the library and then work my way in. And no, it just was give a little money to the library and that was the end of it. And so I actually wrote a blog post. So if you go to blogmaverick.com and search Orrin Hatch, you'll see my whole commentary on it. And I haven't donated a penny to politicians since then.
Next question. If we can go all the way to the back in the burgundy trousers.
Hi. So Peter Thiel has a fellowship where essentially he provides about $100,000 worth of funding so that students in college can drop out and start their businesses. What's your opinion about this?
Hate it. Absolutely hate it. Because there's nothing you can't do while you're in school in terms of starting a business. And to me, you go to college to learn how to learn and to get excited about learning. And I've actually invested in one of his scholars and got to know a couple others. And they're smart, there's no question about it, and they're driven. But I think, they've been left behind in some respects. All of this, how much is it worth? Can you hear me speak? I mean, my goodness. The most valuable asset, people always ask me, should you go to college? Should you go to university? The most valuable asset you have is the thirst for knowledge, the ability to learn how to learn, and that'll serve you your entire lives. And, if you don't practice that, if you don't go to school and learn, I think, you're at a significant disadvantage. So whenever somebody asks me, particularly when it comes to starting a business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be in the business world and you can't speak the language of business, if you don't understand finance, if you don't understand marketing, if you don't understand sales, etc., if you don't have a basic technological background, you're way behind. And so I think going to school is always a good thing.
If we can go to the third row over there. Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming. I wanted to ask you about the growth of the NBA and if it has the possibility to challenge the NFL. And if it does, what we can possibly look forward to seeing as far as expansion of the D-League, more teams in places like Seattle,
You can tell
Mexico
the American
City.
students, can't you?
I'm just curious what you see as the growth and what innovative things we can see from
Sure.
the other owners in
So
Silver.
in the United States, the NFL is the king of the mountain. It's the Premier League, right? And they get the biggest TV ratings. There's most money. The teams are worth the most amount of money, and the NBA is probably second. But the NFL has got a real challenge. I have a 7-year-old son. I would not let him play professional football, American football. I would not let him play tackle football, American football. And the reason is they have a significant problem with concussions. Why would I let my son, or why would any parent let their kids put their kids at risk like that? And so you're starting to see that impact. So that's part one in the challenge to the NFL. Part two in the challenge, gaming is changing the mindset of kids and families globally. And so I don't know as much here, but as best as I understand English football, soccer, families are born into fandom for certain teams, right? You're a fan of Arsenal, your entire family, and everybody you know is a fan of Arsenal or Liverpool, whatever it may be, right? That's who you are, that's who your family is. And in the United States, I grew up in Pittsburgh. My dad is 90 years old, and if I didn't root for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he would disown me. But that's the way I grew up. My son now, when I try to get him to watch a football game, a Dallas Cowboys game or Steelers game, he's playing Minecraft. He can tell you the best Minecraft video guys ever, right? And who his favorites are. He couldn't name one football player. Now, he knows if he couldn't name basketball players, I would disown him and you'd have a 7-year-old. There'd be a little 7-year-old named Jake roaming the streets, but you think I'm kidding. But the point being, so now Jake signed up for basketball. He knows the rules. Obviously, rules are easy. Played soccer, football, knows the rules. Rules are easy. Went to play baseball. None of the kids knew the rules because they had never watched the game. Went to play football. Now, it's just, for me growing up, American football, if you didn't know the rules as a 7-year-old, it would have been inconceivable. You would have been disowned by your friends. They had no idea what to do when they got out there. Throw me the ball. No idea. So to the point, it's going to be much more difficult to build NBA fans, and I think even Premier fans, English football fans, and NFL fans, because kids, we grew up, even at your age, with the television in the living room, and you watched sports on TV with your parents, or you just watched it because it was there. Now we all have a screen, and we're watching what we want to watch. and they're playing games, and we're doing, there's different activities. And so the NBA is going to have to work harder. All professional sports are going to have to work harder. And you're seeing it in our ratings, you're seeing it in the NFL ratings, you're seeing it in the EPL ratings. It's becoming different. And so it brings on its own challenges.
Next question. If we can go to the hand in the front row. Yeah, just in the black jacket. Yes.
Hello, thank you for your talk today. I'm a big fan, and I can't even count the amount of times that my dad has gotten mad at my brother and me for screaming at the TV while Shark Tank was going on.
Well, Shark Tank's not even on here, is it? It's just Dragon's Den?
I think it's called, yeah, but I'm from Los Angeles, so.
Oh, so there you go.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you, who would you say is your favorite entrepreneur that you have worked with, and why do they stand out in your mind?
Oh my goodness. Favorite entrepreneur is in company I've invested in?
Yeah, like during Shark Tank.
During Shark Tank?
Yes.
From Shark Tank, there's a woman, Lainey Lazari, who when I invested, she was 19 from Pittsburgh, my hometown. And when she was 11, she had eczema, and she wanted to come up with a natural-based scrub that helped with her eczema. And so her and her mom started making these simple scrubs in their bathtub in their house and started selling it locally. And she grew it, went to high school, didn't go to college as much as I'm trying to get her to go to school, but came on Shark Tank when she was 19 and had a company called Simple Sugars. And when she came on the show, she had $30,000 worth of sales that year. Show airs, I'm helping her grow the business, and it's growing and growing. 6 months later, she emails me, she goes, "Mark, I have a problem." I'm like, "Lainey, what's the matter?" She goes, "I have $1 million in the bank. What am I supposed to do?" I'm like, smile. Then we talk about taxes and dealing with all of it and everything. But I think Lainey is my favorite entrepreneur because she's just so driven, and she does the work, right? She wants to keep on learning. She wants to keep an edge, and she wants to make her customers happy, and she's achieving her goals, and she loves what she's doing. And at the end of the day, success really is about waking up with a smile on your face, knowing you're going to have a fun day, right? You're really looking forward to what you're doing, and I think she embodies that. Thank you.
Great. Next question. Can we go to the other hand in the first row? Let's go there.
Yeah, so in a recent podcast, Bill Simmons and Malcolm
I get all the
Gladwell-
Americans. I mean, it's like, I can get this back home.
So Bill Simmons and Malcolm Gladwell were speculating that some of Trump's actions and mindset are a product of him growing up with a rich father. And you're a pretty grounded person, but it's pretty public that you're a billionaire, and I'm sure your kids know that. What do you do to keep them grounded? Like, what's your strategy and
My
plan
kids,
to
how to
keep
keep
them
them grounded? Yeah. After their health, my biggest fear is that they'll turn out to be entitled jerks, And so, I really work hard that when one of them wants something, they have to do something, right? I'm not the dad that just says, "Okay, I'll bring you home presents," or "What do you want? I'll go get 2 of them." When my 10-year-old daughter Alyssa wanted her little bits, to be able to put together, she had to read articles and she had to do errands, and do things to earn it. When my son wanted $1 for something, he had to do math for money. He's 7 now. What's 16 times 16? Come on, and he's got to show. I'm trying to, and my wife as well. We're trying to really impress on them that nothing is just going to be given to you, and that you're going to have to work for it. And oh, by the way, you're not in my will yet for my 13-year-old daughter. She is, but don't tell her. But there's all kinds of funky rules attached. So it's something that scares the hell out of me, but it's something my wife and I really work hard to try to impress on my kids that you're going to have to accomplish things on your own. I'm not going to just hand them to you, and you better do well. We're going to work with you to help you in school and allow you to achieve what you need to achieve for yourself.
Right. Next question. Can we go to the third row over here? Oh, around this.
Mark, I don't think it's too early for you to start campaigning. Trump already has.
Yeah, I saw that.
But a question I had was, I read that you named your mega yacht after the fountainhead, unless that's fake news. Is that one of the books that your favorite books?
No, I love Fountainhead, but I don't have a yacht.
Oh, okay. Well, that is fake news. Very fake news.
So there's a story here, right? Go ahead. Well, I'll let you get to the question, then I'll tell the
But
story.
I was just interested because I went to buy that book from Blackwell's, and the guy hesitated and said, "This is the most."
Wait, I'm sorry, didn't you hear?
It's a bookshop here called Blackwell's. He said it's the most evil book I've ever read. So I was
Fountainhead?
I was just intrigued because it's a very hyper-libertarian type of book, which is adopted by the Tea Party. How you kind of marry that
Now, there's
with your
liking
philosophy.
the book, and there's thinking and taking it literally, right? What I liked about The Fountainhead was Howard Rourke as the protagonist, and the fact that he set his goals, and despite what his bosses thought of him, despite what other people thought of him, he didn't let that stop him. In terms of the whole political aspect of it, you know, the big bad government's going to destroy everything. No, that's not my attitude. So while a lot of me, I'm a libertarian at heart, I'm a realist first, and I've kind of evolved. You know, I'm not a no government. I'm not a destroy government. I think there's a very valid need. We were talking a little earlier. I'm a big believer that, you know, as a country, whether it's UK or the United States, there's a balance sheet, to use financial terms, where we take on certain obligations to our citizens. You know, healthcare, safety, service. You know, a basic foundation so they can live, because it's always more expensive. Social unrest, civil unrest, violence is always more expensive than taxes, right? And so if we can make life a little easier for people so that they can survive where it's difficult for them, and we can help them so they can, you know, contribute and reach their own goals, then I think we all benefit more. Now that may seem contrary to a libertarian, but, and again, we had this conversation earlier, once you get past the basics of providing foundational support for your citizens, then I'm all for a free market, right? You know, I've always said that it's after military service, and this is a little bit American, but after military service, the most patriotic thing you can do is pay taxes. Because everybody, you know, I'm not as successful as I am without first, you know, being able to live in a safe environment and having a country that functions, right? Because like we were talking about in India and in Africa, where the countries don't function, it'd be a lot more difficult. So I'm not a pure libertarian. I liked Howard Rourke, and I stand by that. I think he's been, you know, very inspirational to me. And when I need to be fired up, like those times when I was down and I needed to be really fired up and motivated, that's the book I would read. Now back to Fountainhead, the yacht. This is amazing, right? So I get a letter one day, and it says, "I just wanted to thank you. Your ship's doctor saved my husband. He had a heart attack right next to your boat, and your ship's doctor came down and gave him mouth-to-mouth, resuscitated him, got him to the hospital, and he's alive, and we're very thankful." I'm like, my ship's doctor? And then I'm in Miami a couple weeks later, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, my friend just worked on your boat." I'm like, what? And then I keep hearing these stories. I hate boats. I don't have a yacht, but there's a guy who owns a yacht named Fountainhead, and it's got a basketball court on it. And so he tells everybody, it's my yacht. I've had celebrities say, "Oh yeah, I'm in this ocean or that ocean. Can we come over and dock?" I'm like, I fucking hate boats. It's the craziest thing ever. No idea who it is. And it's even better. I could find out, right? It's just so much more entertaining that I don't know. So, but thanks for asking.
Great. Can we go to a hand in the, I think it's the fourth row, just on the aisle.
Thank you for coming. I just have a quick question about basketball. What do you think about Russell averaging a triple-double?
About Russell. So I've said that Russell Westbrook is not a superstar, so everybody's got to ask me, what do I think about him averaging a triple-double? A triple-double, for those of you who don't know basketball, is when you average more than 10 points, more than 10 rebounds, and more than 10 assists or steals or blocks in a game. And it hasn't happened for an entire season since Oscar Robertson, so it's really an accomplishment. But like any other team sport, you know, the important part's the team, right? So I've always said that somebody is not a superstar until you can take your team to 50 wins and a playoff series win, which he hasn't done yet. So when he does that, I'll sing his praises. Until then, he's not as good as Dirk, who took us, but that's a whole nother story.
Can we go to just back as well? So the last hand on the other side. Yeah.
Hi, Mark. First of
Hi.
all, my family loved you on Dancing with the Stars and Shark Tank. But my question is, as an entrepreneur, you must have gone through a lot of ups and downs in your career. How do you get past your lowest point?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I first moved to Dallas, I was living 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment, slept on the floor. I mean, I tell the story all the time. I had one towel that I stole from a hotel that had holes in it. It was nasty. I mean, mustard and ketchup. I gained 30 pounds because we would go to a local pub and they would have fried mushrooms and everything if you just had one beer for $3, right? And so I would just pig out on fried mushrooms or fried whatever they had, and that's how I got started. I would come, there were times when I came home, the lights were turned off, I got my credit cards cut, you name it, right? I couldn't get financing for a car. There was a car on the roadway that I kind of liked, and it was obviously abandoned. I hunted down the bank that had done the financing for it and said, like, I think I found a car that you financed. Can I have it? And that's how I got a car when I first moved to Dallas. And so when I remember waking up days going, oh my God, right? Is this going to happen? You know, there were 6 of us living in a 3-bedroom apartment. One day, the way we would do it back then, we'd all write checks to one person who would then deposit it in their account and then write the landlord a check, because that would buy us time with the float, right? Back then, so it would give us an extra couple days to get the money to deposit in our accounts. Guy named Dave O'Brien, Dobie, one day just took those checks. I have not seen him since. And it's like, what do you do? You know, and for whatever reason, I mean, I never got pissed. I never got, you know, upset. It was just like, you know, this is it, right? I just got to go. I just got to do. And I just got to keep on grinding. And that's always worked out for me. So even when things were the toughest, you know, my attitude has just been enjoy your life, smile, fight your way through it, and remember what you're good at. And I was good at tech, I was good at selling, I was good at working longer hours than everybody else, but I was even better at enjoying what I was doing. And so I just kept on reminding myself to enjoy. Even there was, you know, my first company, I said we did systems integration in local area networks. We hadn't been in business 2 years, and we had $84,000 in the bank. And we had a system we thought was right. You know, I went to college, I understood business, we had processes in place. And so we had a process where I would check all the payables, checks and everything, sign them, put them in an envelope, give them to our receptionist to go mail. Well, I got a call from the bank, $84,000 in the bank. Mark, someone was just coming through the drive-through of the bank, and all the checks had whiteout, remember the old whiteout thing? And she had written her name over top of the whiteout. I'm like, you didn't cash them, right? Oh yeah, why wouldn't we cash them? 82,000 of the $84,000 we had, gone. And it was like moments like that where you know you could just get mad, and I was mad. And her name is Renee Hardy. In case she came over here to the UK and you run into her, R-E-N-E-E Hardy. But it was like, what else are you going to do? You know, shit happens, and so you have to get back to work, and you have to go after it, and you have to make the best of it. And I think what I learned from all that was there's always going to be setbacks. There's always going to be things that go wrong. There's always going to be things you don't anticipate. Even when you have every I dotted, every T crossed, something's going to go wrong. And when it does, you just have to fight through it and grind through it and remember what it is that makes you special, what it is that gives you confidence to do what you do and do more of it. And so it's worked out.
Go to person in the front row in the white and green jacket.
This is a pretty Canadian question. What are your thoughts of Kevin O'Leary running for Conservative leadership? I figured I may as well ask you since you know him Somewhat well.
Yeah, so those of you who don't know, Shark Tank, one of my fellow sharks is a Canadian by the name of Kevin O'Leary, who is looking to run for prime minister and be their version of Donald Trump. That's all I need to say about that.
Can we go to the gentleman in the third row, I think it is? Yeah, just.
Hi Mark, thanks for coming. I'm a medic, and I know for now and for the next few years, the only people that people trust to do their medicine is doctors, and so I'm pretty secure in my kind of prospects. However, as Donald Trump proves, you don't need any particular background nowadays to go into any particular field. So my question is, will we see universities start to fail, as now you can just learn things online, you can go on online courses?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you still need people to interpret all the data, right? And you still need people to communicate with humans. Now when you go online, whenever you feel something, right? It's like, oh shit, what's that? Right? And we go and we look it up no matter what, and then we get freaked out because we think we have, whatever. And so there still needs to be human communication, particularly, because our bodies, while in a lot of respects, they're just a math equation. And as technology advances, though personalized medicine will become more and more so, and there'll just be so many more things so many more ways to get information, and we'll be able to solve so many more problems over our lifetimes. But at the end of the day, we have to have a better way to communicate those issues and to ask questions to get into the system. And because the psychology of how we evaluate ourselves, how we feel, impacts our health, I think there's always going to be a place for doctors, for medics, but it will change, right? Artificial intelligence, it's the role of medical professionals is going to change dramatically over the next 10 years. And I think, the reality is for a doctor, 90% of the things they do are a guess. It's just probability, right? The odds say, this is what's probably wrong with you, and we're going to do A, B, and C, and then we'll see what happens. And we'll see if you're in the 90% or you're in the 10%. And so those odds will improve over time as we learn more about our bodies and the equations we are. But the ability to ask the questions and get the information and communicate it, I think will always be there. So you'll see a transition from trying to determine the probabilities to trying to communicate to get the right questions that give you the right, and communicating the right answers.
Next question. Can we go to the member in the front row, just in the middle? Here.
Thanks for being here and for speaking positively about education. I think all the MBAs in the room are very relieved that you think it's a good investment.
I didn't say an MBA was a good investment. No. I said liberal arts. You're trying to put that fake news on me. I got you.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit about the concept of portfolio careers? I look at everything you've done.
Portfolio careers?
Yeah, because you're in media and you're in sports and you're working with entrepreneurs and you've done so many different things. And I feel like I'm doing too much. And then I look at you, I'm like, okay, maybe it's possible to do a lot of very disparate things.
I just have one overriding principle. Do I like it? Am I having fun? Look, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. If I can't have fun at every single thing that I do, something's wrong with me, right? I mean, I get to do what I like. I get to be up here. I get to, if I want to go get shit-faced, there's nobody going to tell me no, right?
Maybe your wife.
She already knows better. No, I can't tell her what to do either, so it's a fair trade. But you get the point, right? Coming up, it's just, you've got to find the things that you like. Because to me, the key to success is finding something you love to do and then trying to be great at it. And you don't have to know what that is. Like I took one computer class in college and I cheated at it, but when I started really getting into it, I could spend 20 hours teaching myself to program and writing programs. And I was like, I had no idea. I love this stuff, right? And I would just sit there and days would go by and I loved it, right? And then as I got more into those businesses, it was like, this is great. I'm having a blast doing this. But I didn't know that's what I would love to do until I tried a lot of different things. And so you don't have to know exactly what you want to be when you grow up. You don't have to know that you're going to grow up, you know? You just have to try different things. And even if 99% of them fail, you only have to be right one time. You don't have to figure it all out in advance. You can be wrong. You could pick the wrong career. You can pick the wrong job. You can pick the wrong spouse. You can pick the wrong whatever. But you get it right one time, you're set. But if you don't try, and if you don't go out there and try all those different things, you'll never get that one time. And so it's not a question of, okay, how much different stuff do I do, or how many different things should you try? Try them all. Try them all until you find the one you like. And then it's like, it gets really easy. Because even when shit fucks up, you're on a mission. You're loving what you do, you know, and then it gets easy. And so that's just the approach I've always tried to instill in people who work for me and myself. Hope that helps.
Next question. Can we go to a member in the blue hoodie? Yeah.
Hey Mark, how's it going? My name's Brian O'Brien. Hopefully I'm not related to the guy that stole your checks. Yeah. I had a Shark Tank question. I'm curious what the life cycle is for the relationship between you and these entrepreneurs. I imagine, I mean, come on, you can't spread your time so much, and with the show being on for as long as it is, what's the typical exit, what's the commitment, and kind of what's that process look like from your side?
If I invest money in a company, there is no life cycle. It's, you know, till death do us part. And so I've invested in 71 companies through Shark Tank. I probably have 150 investments. I have, 15 or so people who work for me and help me. But all the entrepreneurs that I invest in, they'll send me a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly report, depending on the nature of their business. Bad news first. And because I expect good news, right? I don't need to hear the good news. That's why I invest in you. I expect it. I'm here to help you with the bad stuff. And so for as long as you keep on grinding and working hard, you're going to have my support. Now, out of those 71, I've probably had 12 to 15 that are doing really, really well. Probably 3 exits, none really exciting. At the bottom, I've probably had 10 out of the 71 where 3 have gone out of business and 7 are out of business and aren't smart enough to know it. I'll give you an example that still drives me crazy. There's a company that sold chocolate-covered pretzels. Loved them, right? This is when I first came on the show, so I was trying to make a point. So I invested in a bunch of companies I probably shouldn't have and wouldn't have otherwise, but I was trying to make a point to Kevin O'Leary and others. And this company, when you air on Shark Tank, it's like Dragon's Den. You get a big push, all the PR, all the marketing, and people buy those products. So she had chocolate-covered pretzels. We worked with her. Her cost was $14. She sells them for $29.95. This is going to air. She should kill it. It airs. Tons of sales. Her cash is going like this. I'm like, what is going on with your cash? Oh, we decided to do free shipping just to make our customers happy. So she has $15 in profit margin. How much is your shipping? $16. And no lie, to this day, I still get emails about just, yeah, it's so, unless, yeah, I mean, I try to stay connected for as much as possible, because to me, it wouldn't be right. You came on the show, you picked me right from all the panelists, and if I didn't show a commitment to you, and I'm not going to say I'm perfect with everyone, some want more time than I can give, but I try my best to give them the support they need.
Next question. Can we go to the hand, sort of, I think it's roughly 6th row in the blue jacket. Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Cuban, thank you very much for being here.
Call me Mark. It makes me feel old when someone calls me Mr.
Mark.
There you
I'm
go.
not one of the Americans, I'm sorry. You've already mentioned that you don't support Peter Thiel's scholarship, and neither you probably support his stance towards Donald Trump. There has, however, also been quite a lot of wider criticism about sort of Silicon Valley and their failure to prevent filter bubbles, etc., fake news from rising. What do you think should Silicon Valley's and especially Facebook's response be? And how do you see this sort of interconnectedness between politics and tech?
So the issue of fake news, basically. So there's two elements there. First, we'll start from Facebook and Google and the like. If you're providing a platform for news and information and a lot of it is fake, that's a Facebook issue, right? Because then your users are not going to be satisfied with the product you're offering. Same with search, right? That's completely different than how our president deals with fake news and the issue of fake news. And I actually just tweeted this today. If you're claiming somebody is fake news, the reality is it's a reflection that you are not being transparent. All of us can write a blog. We can go on social media. There's no character limit in Facebook. You can, use any platform you want, Medium, Twitter, whatever, and you can be as transparent as you want to be. And so if someone makes something up about me other than a yacht, right? I can go on my blog, and I've done it before. Or these are the facts. This is what literally happened, and here's links to it, and here's pictures of it, whatever the situation requires, that's what I'm going to do. If our president really wanted to combat fake news, all you got to do is write a blog, do a video, sit down and interview the people that he said were misquoted, and it's not like people aren't going to watch it or read it. And so the fake news isn't a problem. The problem with fake news for our president isn't that it's wrong. It's that it gives him something to fight. It gives him an enemy to battle against, and which distracts everybody from the real issues. And so it serves a purpose for him, but it's a red herring. And that's not to say people don't make things up. They do. But in this day and age of technology, when you're supposed to be the leader of the free world, write a blog, do a video, right? He's done it before. Answer the questions. If somebody, said, he said today, I was listening to his news conference before I came over, and he said, well, I talked to the people and they didn't say this or that. Get them on camera, interview them. Let's hear what they actually said. And you can get the reporter who said, you say misquoted them. Let's see what their notes say, and let's solve this problem. It's so easy in this day and age of technology. It's a red herring he creates. I don't think is as big an issue as we're trying to make it out to be, and it just detracts from the real issues.
Next question. Can we go all the way to the back?
I have one question. What would Mark Cuban do? What would be the first thing Mark Cuban do if he got elected as president of the United States? Yeah.
Throw a hell of a party.
I mean, not the party, but the main agenda.
No, in an agenda. Sit down and talk to the people who didn't vote for me and find out why and what the issues are and how I can connect to them. Because in order, I think the only way for a country to thrive is to be as unified as possible and for their government to show as much understanding and respect for different issues as possible. And the only way to do that is, it's easy to talk to the people who agree with you. The key, can you connect and find an understanding with the people who disagree with you? And so rather than going around and talking to the people that voted for me, I want to talk to the people who didn't vote for me and learn from them. And then I would start discussing an agenda. I mean, there'd be top line things that I would do, but, like I talked about AmeriCorps and finding jobs for people and dealing with, the change in technology and disruption. But I think the real foundation is talking to the people that didn't vote and disagree with me, find out what's important to them, understand how to connect to them, and then start building that into an agenda.
Great. Next question. Can we go to the member down there, fourth row?
Hi, Mark. Thank you for coming. My question is, what does a typical day look like for you?
A typical day? Read my email, quickly check social media, respond to my email, because I don't do calls or meetings, right? I'm only going to do a meeting if you're writing me a check or it's just some big issue that I need to address. Same with the call, because it's just not all that effective. If there's something I have to brainstorm about, if there's something I need to learn or something I need to convey, I'll do a meeting. But everybody who works for me, around me, deals with me, knows that those are rare, and so they have to be really productive. And then, I'll work out, I'll deal with whatever companies, and then, I'll read. And right now I'm trying to learn as much as you've heard me allude to, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks. That 80% of my reading is geared towards that, because I feel if I'm going to compete in, we talked about the competitive aspect of business. If I'm going to be able to compete, these are topics I need to know very, very well. And so that's really where I'm spending a disproportionate amount of my time until I can get that under control.
Thank you.
Were you referring to politics when you said, if I'm going to compete?
No, not yet. No, not yet.
Not yet.
But I try to keep up.
2018, 2019.
Well, yeah,
good.
I got
can we go to a member in the second row all the way down?
Hello. What's something that's very significant that's happened during your business journey that most people don't know about?
Very significant that's happened in my business journey. I didn't have as many personal relationships as I probably would have liked. I put personal relationships aside. I had girlfriends where it was like me or your business. And, I was like, what was your name again? You think I'm kidding. So I probably took things to an extreme. But yeah, I gave up on personal relationships in a big respect because I really was on a mission. And once I realized I was going, when I sold my first company, I bought a lifetime pass on American Airlines, and my goal was just to party with like a rock star in as many countries with as many people as I possibly could. Then I went back and got involved in the streaming business, and I remember sitting there and telling, we had probably 10 employees, and look, the streaming thing I think is going to be really big, and so we really have to focus. And there's going to be some sacrifices. And if you're willing to make those sacrifices, let's go. And if you're not, I understand, you make your own decisions. And I was willing to make those sacrifices. And, it all turned out great in the long run, but during that time it wasn't always easy, and it wasn't always, it was tough sometimes.
Last few questions. If we can go to, remember in the second row, yes, in the middle.
Hi, Mark. So what, according to you, are the qualities of a true leader?
The qualities of a true leader, so I'll tell you the way I try to approach things. I wouldn't ask you to do a job that I wouldn't do myself, within reason, right? So if I'm walking around our arena, I'm picking up trash with everybody. If there's a clogged bathroom, I've made the point to go unclog that bathroom because I want you to do it. I want you to see me making that job just as important to me as it is to you. I always look at my job as to put you in a position to succeed, because if you understand what our goals are and you can define your definition of success within those goals, I'm going to do everything I can to help you get there. And even if it means you going off into another career or doing your own thing or starting your own company, that's okay by me, because I'm still going to have a great relationship with you, and you're going to feel good about the support I've given you. Excuse me. And then from there, if I can define what my goals are, here's the goal for this company, here's the goal for this team, here's the goal for this organization, here's where we're trying to get to. So goal of the organization, your personal goals, how they fit in, how I can help you achieve these goals, making it clear to you that I'm willing to do what it takes alongside of you. And it's not going to be, hey, go ahead and do it and call me, that's what I tried. Now, as organizations get bigger, I don't have nearly the personal touch. There's people in my companies that I wouldn't know them if I saw them, and or don't remember their name even if I have seen them. And that, doesn't make me feel good, but I still feel like I can convey and be a leader by conveying those same principles and defining the culture to be the same way to those people who work for me.
Unfortunately, I think this is all that we have time for this evening. Probably a good place to stop. I ask you all to remain in your seats whilst our guest speaker leaves the chamber. But before this, please can I ask you all to join me in thanking Mark Cuban for